Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about a really unusual, lovely, and in certain ways heartening moment in the U.S. Supreme Court. I wrote about this briefly in my Substack yesterday. There's a Solicitor General that is appointed by the president, a political appointee, and they handle the most important cases typically in the Supreme Court, the real agenda items. And they may do as many as 8 a year. The Solicitor General has typically 4 deputies and then in addition about 16 staff lawyers. So very small place, very, very elite. It's the, Navy SEALs or Green Berets of the Department of Justice, meaning more or less of the federal government. So you have this top person, then 4 deputies, and then other staff. 3 of the 4 deputies historically have been so-called career deputies, meaning they were just appointed not by an individual president that they're supposed to be beholden to and sensitive to the politics of, but really try to call it straight and down the line. And they have a very important responsibility that people have gone into to sort of understand better because it's a little funky. You work for the Solicitor General, who works for the DOJ, who works for the president, but you have this very, very special role vis-a-vis the Supreme Court. Some have called the Solicitor General the 10th Justice, and you really have a special kind of alliance with them. Sometimes they'll call for your views. They respect the views quite a bit, unless, of course, you dispense that capital. Back to that in a moment. But of the 4 deputies, one who's a career deputy. To finish my thought about the 3 careers, there's some thought now that with one leaving, as I'll explain, Trump will try to put in 2 political deputies, 2 more beholden to him. But anyway, it's been 3, and one of those 3 is Ed Needler Jr. And he has been around for a very long tenure, and he has argued more cases in the Supreme Court, I think, than anyone. That would include, Daniel Webster and the like, 160. And he's announced his retirement, and 2 days ago was his final argument in an unexceptional case involving, I think, the EPA. He finishes his argument. People know in the room it's his last one. He has sat down, and Chief Justice Roberts calls him back to the lectern just to congratulate him. And, the mere fact he's calling him is effusive praise within the very buttoned down world of the Supreme Court. But, he's through the court. We thank you for your dedication to justice, etc. And then something amazing happens, and then something more amazing happens. The amazing thing is the audience bursts into applause. The Supreme Court's a place where if you're sitting there, if you got to be careful if you scratch your ear that you do it silently. There are marshals hovering around to kick you out if you make so much as a peep here. So I've never heard anybody put 2 hands together, much less the whole place applauds. So they must have known it was a special enough moment that you can burst through this protocol. Then the whole place gives Ed Needler a standing ovation. Everybody just stands up. That's several hundred people. And then the 9 justices of the Supreme Court, perched on high on their bench, all stand up as well and contribute to the standing ovation. This is so unprecedented, so nuts, and such a tribute to Needler. As people who were there in the court said, most electric moment I've ever seen in the courtroom. It's like, what the hell is going on, and am I dreaming? But that's what they did, and that's the level of respect held for Ed Needler. Okay. I want to say a few things about Ed Needler because I've worked with him in the department, out of the department, and it's really true. He is the absolute gold standard of integrity. He is a guy who you everyone who hears him argue knows that they're getting the straight stuff. The best argument to be made, but the absolute straight stuff. He would never stray an iota from the facts. And he is off the charts integrity, off the charts judgment, off the charts humility. He lived, I'm not exactly sure where, but I would see him catch the bus. Deputy Solicitor General is a pretty big deal. And he would catch the bus every day, go to not the ritzy northwest part of town, but going in the other direction. And it would typically be at 7 or 8 or late. That was his sort of work ethic. Totally supportive of all the people in the office, etc., but absolutely the soul of integrity. I worked on him in different cases, some that had a little bit of a political twist, and he had to be careful about, but he just, everybody knows him as the gold standard. When the same guy who was in the court said, we're never going to see another like Needler. And that's why I really wanted to bring this home, because what are we talking about? We're talking about steadfast dedication to the rule of law, steadfast honesty, steadfast integrity, steadfast giving it straight to the justices, steadfast everything that this administration isn't. This administration which lies and obfuscates and prevaricates and proffers ridiculous interpretations and conceptualizes itself from the Attorney General on down as Donald Trump's lawyers. No way Ed Needler was Donald Trump's lawyer. He was a lawyer for the law, for the Constitution and the Supreme Court. So the other point that makes me want to amplify this article in the New York Times, by the way, about a standing ovation given in the Supreme Court, it's like stunning in and of itself, is to say that he embodies, exemplifies the very qualities that this crowd of rogues is completely running roughshod over and in the process of tearing down. And who knows if and when, and I continue to be on the when school, they are finally expelled, what it's going to take, if it's even possible, to recreate the department that always existed and that Ed Needler always exemplified. That's really going to be a humongous challenge, even leaving aside the more important and more immediate challenge of just getting them out of the ability to do so much pernicious damage to the Constitution itself. But anyway, Ed Needler first. Unbelievable. We won't see, by the way, it won't be televised. There's not a secret YouTube coming. Forget about cameras in the Supreme Court. But the moment of it, and then what it means more broadly, and how that so directly undermines, contradicts, calls out as bankrupt all the practices and changes that that are now being instituted at this Department of Justice under Pam Bondi. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.